They're running scared. Either you're going to be tough on Putin or you're not. The only way to be tough on Putin is to sanction the energy companies. President Zelensky of Ukraine is begging for it. He's begging for things. And, are we okay allowing people to die in the streets of Ukraine because we're worried that Russia will get mad if we sanction their energy sector? No, we should be teaching Russia a lesson by sanctioning their energy companies. We should be pulling them out of the international banking system. We should be sending arms to Ukraine so that they can defend themselves and protect themselves. They desperately need anti-air, anti-tank, Javelin, and Stinger missiles. We should be sending those over.
I'm Dave Rubin, and joining me today is the former United States ambassador to the United Nations, the former governor of South Carolina, and someone who knows a little something about international relations, Ambassador Nikki Haley. Welcome back to the Rubin Report.
Thanks so much. Great to be with you, Dave.
Well, I'm glad to have you this week because I've been telling my audience for the last 10 days or so that it's extremely hard right now to figure out exactly what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. And of course, Kamala Harris did tell us that Ukraine small, Russia big, but I want to see if we can give a little more thoughtful analysis to that if possible. So first, could you just give us sort of a Russia-Ukraine 101, a little bit of the history, some of the geopolitics, what got us to this moment, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I think what got us to the moment is we all know that the Soviet Union fell. And when it fell, Russia apparently had borders and Ukraine had freedom and democracy. And what has happened is Putin has decided he's just going to ignore history. He's going to recreate it. And in his mind, he thinks that it needs to go back to the Soviet Union. And so he believes that Ukraine is part of Russia. It's part of the Soviet Empire, and he's only taking what is rightfully theirs. Ukraine, on the other hand, is a flourishing democracy where people appreciate freedom. It was knocking on Putin's doorstep. He was worried that Russians were going to see the freedom that Ukrainians had, and he didn't want that to happen. The lesson in all of this, Dave, is that when an evil dictator thug says they're going to do something, we need to believe them. Putin said he was going to take Ukraine, and he is. China said they were going to take Hong Kong, and they did. Putin says that he's next going for Poland and the Baltics. We should believe him. China says they're going to get Taiwan. That's going to happen. Iran says they're going to destroy Israel. We need to start understanding that when tyrants say something, we should believe them, get in front of it so that we don't see this kind of bloodshed that's happening, because what's happening now is nothing short of a tragedy.
Is this one of the things that we discussed in our original interview, say 6 or 8 months ago, where if the United States does not lead, does not say, hey, we have red lines that you can't cross, say there are things that you cannot do, if we don't do it, that the world just kind of goes to hell in the handbasket. It doesn't mean we do everything right all the time, but pretty much without us, NATO doesn't function, other countries don't sort of stand up for what's right?
I think it was very clear to me at the United Nations that whether countries like the U.S. or not, they want us to lead. They would much rather follow the United States than follow China or Russia any day of the week. And, what I saw is when we speak, the world listens. When we act, the world follows. Who we are, the world wants to be. And so it doesn't mean we have to go to war, but it means that we need to speak and speak loudly. And we need to make sure we do it in the name of freedom, and we do it in the name of peace. And what we need to be saying loudly now is, Europeans thought that if they were nice to Russia, that Russia would leave them alone. And what you find out is when you sleep with the devil owns you. Europeans became 40% dependent on Russian oil. Russia is a one industry country. Their whole livelihood is surrounded by energy and the energy industry. And so what Europe has to do now is they have to become independent of Russian oil. Poland and Lithuania have already done that. They're getting theirs from Australia. The United States should not be taking Russian oil. We could open up the Keystone Pipeline and that would take up the oil that we're getting from them. But also, we need to double down on fracking. We need to export liquefied natural gas. We need to really start to understand this is a national security issue. Because while a lot of people think this is just Ukraine, 1 million people have migrated out of Ukraine into all of those European countries, especially Poland right now. The entire European region is going to be disrupted. And we're all going to feel that. And so this is about being smart and realizing where we are and the fact that we need to be doing something. If you see the death that's happening in the streets of Ukraine, don't think that's over there. That very well could be us. That's not saying, anytime there's a free democracy, there's a tyrant ready to take it. We've seen that with Israel for a long time. You're now seeing that with Ukraine. You're going to see it with Taiwan. The United States has to figure out what they want to be when they lead. And I think we are always right when we lead on the side of freedom.
So you briefly mentioned sanctions there. I'm sure you saw the clips last week where Jen Psaki basically was saying, we have these incredible sanctions like you've never seen before. And then just hours later, I think it was our deputy energy secretary who said, but it won't affect the energy sector of Russia's economy. I mean, do you sense that the people that are in charge right now, from Biden to the spokesman to the rest of them, that they have a sense of really what's going on here?
I mean, they're running scared. They're running scared. Either you're going to be tough on Putin or you're not. The only way to be tough on Putin is to sanction the energy companies. President Zelensky of Ukraine is begging for it. He's begging for things. And, are we okay allowing people to die in the streets of Ukraine because we're worried that Russia will get mad if we sanction their energy sector? No, we should be teaching Russia a lesson by sanctioning their energy companies. We should be pulling them out of the international banking system. We should be sending arms to Ukraine so that they can defend themselves and protect themselves. They desperately need anti-air, anti-tank, Javelin and Stinger missiles. We should be sending those over. Zelensky has said, look, send us planes, send us tanks, send us anything. And, the United States, if we stepped up and did it, the rest of the world would step up and do it. 20 countries now have provided Ukraine with all sorts of military equipment and things that they need. But I'm worried it's going to be too little too late.
What would you say to the people who make the argument that, okay, so you do everything you can on sanctions, we arm the Ukrainians, we get some real alliance, worldwide alliance against Putin, but this guy does have nukes. There's questions about, what his real motives are and mental health and all of that stuff that if we do basically what you're laying out there, that we just don't know what's at the end of the road of that if you pin this guy or if you paint him into a corner.
America's never been scared. We can't be scared now. What you do is you fight evil wherever it exists. We need strength right now. If he's going to do something, he's going to do it regardless. The best thing we can do is continue to isolate him in the eyes of the world and continue to make sure that we have all of our ally partners together. I mean, the thing that bothers me the most is where are the Arab countries? They haven't said a word through all of this. This is an oil war. They should absolutely be saying something. You know why they're not saying anything? Is they don't trust that America will lead. And they don't trust that Putin will fail. And so the best thing the United States could do is step up and lead and kick Putin where it hurts. Might he use nukes? Yes, but the bigger question is, Ukraine had nuclear production. And there was a treaty that was done with US, Russia, and Ukraine, where Ukraine gave up all of their nukes. They were the third largest holder of nuclear arms, gave up all of their nukes in the name of being free, in the name of being independent. What does this say to countries like Iran, North Korea, those that we're saying they have to denuclearize? Why would they give up their arms now when they know that they really don't get the protections they say they're going to get? So what you're going to see is the world is going to start going back to the nuclear arms. They're going to start beefing up because they're worried about when it's going to happen to them.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.